Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Bunkered podcast in association with Callaway. I'm Michael McEwen, thank you very much for joining us. If you're watching online, then great, thank you for that. If you're listening, just as good, thank you for tuning in. Big show today. A little bit later on, we have one of the great voices of British sport broadcasting joining us, the one and only, the incomparable Steve Ryder. He'll be joining us on the show, as I say, a little bit later on. But before then, plenty to get through, and I couldn't and wouldn't do it without the two gentlemen sitting to my left. Performance editor of Bunkered, Lewis Fraser, and our gear editor, James Tate. Gentlemen, welcome. How are we both?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, both doing good. How are you?
Surviving. Yeah.
Ducking and diving.
Yeah, something like that. I don't feel like I'm on my best form this week so far.
Okay.
I'm not at it. I'm not feeling it.
We're not really fans of Tuesdays. We've spoken about this quite a lot. It's not really the best day of the week, is it?
Tuesday's the worst day of the week.
Yeah, it is.
It's not so much it's not the best. It is categorically the worst, and let me explain why.
Go on.
Monday, you come into the office, you can catch up, you can talk about your weekend, you can spend a good hour and a half, sometimes entire morning talking about what you've done at the weekend. Wednesday, you're halfway through the week. You're like, right, okay, I can deal with that. I am teetering towards being on the right side of this week.
Yep.
Thursday, anticipation's building. You're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm almost there. Friday,
yeah.
I mean, I think that speaks for itself. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, tremendous. Tuesday is just a complete nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there's no redeeming features about Tuesdays.
Nothing good at all.
Nothing at all.
No, you're just in
It's
complete
a
no man's land.
Pointless day.
Yeah.
Reduce it to 6.
Yeah, wow. There we
Wow.
go.
That's my plan.
Wow. Right, tune in next week.
So no, I'm just about there. I'm not on my best form, so I'm hoping that you guys can do the heavy lifting this week. So
okay.
Lewis, over to you.
We'll do it. All right, great.
What have you been up to? What was your weekend like?
Weekend, well, I played golf on Saturday. And it was a classic one of those. We had a great round going after, not great, but decent round going after 15 holes, and then the wheels came flying off, unfortunately. So I was in quite a bad mood on Saturday.
You choked?
Yeah.
Bottled it.
Well,
Massive
I'm not
crash.
saying, yeah, a bit of that. Yeah, put a ball in there.
Where were you playing?
Clydebank and Districts. It's my new home course. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's been quite difficult to kind of get used to it because it's quite a short course, but it's quite a lot of holes.
It'll suit you then.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Really
Driving
good.
greens over there as well.
Yeah. No, none of that. Missing a lot of
par
them.
3s, James.
260-yard par 4s.
Yeah. No, none of that,
Lewis is
unfortunately. But yeah, thought I'd got to grips with it and then put one in the jungle in 16, which for anyone who knows the course will know that shouldn't really happen. So yeah, shot 76 in the end, which didn't sound too bad, but
Not
it
bad.
was going better than that. Yeah, it's a par 69, so that doesn't really...
That's not so great.
Yeah, it's not so great.
Sticking it in the jungle of Clydebank.
Yeah.
What's in that?
Yeah,
There's
going there.
an awful lot that could be said, but I'm scared of people from Clydebank, so we'll just move on.
Yeah.
James, how
probably
about
wise.
you? Any trophies this week?
No trophies this
Okay.
week. A new kind of ball speed PB though for the year.
Okay. Go for it.
228.8 miles per hour. So we're getting closer to 230. Not
Is that
too
the
far away.
goal? 230 is the...
230 is the goal. So in my head, when I get to World Championships, I want to be at 230 because there's guys like Colton Casto, for example. He's world number 1. He is hitting 230 mile per hour when he's on the tee box. So these speed sessions are good, obviously trying to get as fast as possible. And, you hit those numbers. But realistically, when you're actually competing, you might not kind of touch that speed. You'll be a little bit below it, but trying to get as fast as those speeds on the tee box is quite difficult. So that's the goal. But we're close. We're not far away.
228.8. Yeah, you are close.
Very.
Statistically 1.2 miles away.
I know.
So how are you going to unlock that extra 1.2 miles per hour?
Well, over the weekend, I kind of made what I call in the backyard in St Andrews, I call it Speed Corner now.
Speed corner.
That sounds like a really
sponsor.
shit Gladiators game, doesn't it?
It does.
Contender.
Ready. But I basically dug kind of an outline where a practice mat's going to be.
Okay.
Dug it all out, leveled it out, put cement over it. Mat's now down there, and then all I need to do is put my pop-up net down.
You did all this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, my dad kind of helped me a little bit as well, but
You'd think you'd have someone who would do that for you, considering you're such a big deal.
nah. I like doing stuff like that myself.
You like doing some work? That's good too.
Yeah.
Wasn't aware.
What are you trying to?
Well,
Wait, come on now.
manual labor is what he likes doing.
Yeah,
It
it's
would
good.
appear so.
It's good just being outside and doing stuff like that. So just like you watering your plants. So
Yes, that's not a euphemism.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Let's move on.
So yeah, you're getting closer.
Yeah.
The World Championships, remind everyone when that is.
So that is in September. I can't remember. It's middle of September.
June, July, August. So you basically got the guts of 4 months to...
It's in LaSalle,
Find one
Colorado.
an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's good.
got, I think, 3 tournaments from now until maybe 4 tournaments from now until then to kind of get everything kind of tuned up and ready to go. And hopefully we'll bring back that lovely belt.
Well, thank you for
Hopefully
that,
it's not a
Mr.
white
Scheffler.
Thank you.
We need to see this speed corner.
Yeah.
The air quotes very much deliberate there, I have to say.
Yeah.
So maybe you could share. By the way, we've now got a new Facebook page for the podcast.
Nice.
Facebook.com/The Bunkered Podcast. So if you're comfortable sharing what the speed corner looks like, I'm sure people who are listening or watching would absolutely love to see that.
It featured on my Instagram, actually. So
even better.
people would have got maybe a wee sneak peek.
Right.
I was trying to plug the Facebook page.
Yeah, but,
It's
James is trying to plug his
sorry
Instagram,
about
so
that.
there we
Yep,
go.
it would appear so. Right, gents, like I said, we have quite a lot that we need to get through this week. And of course, as ever, we'll be starting with the big question.
The Bunkered Podcast, brought to you by the new Elite Driver from Callaway.
Okay, thank you, Callaway. You can see the Callaway golf balls, the Chrome Tour, I believe it is, directly behind me over my shoulder.
Great
Yeah.
golf ball.
Very
Yeah,
good golf.
big
Very
fan.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big fan.
very
Yeah.
good. The triple diamond as well. Unbelievable.
Ooh, even better.
That's what went 228.8.
Tell us more about that next time. I'm just trying to link here, James.
Yep, sorry about that.
So, yes, thank you, Callaway. Thank you, James. The big question this week, and I suppose this is a question we could ask every week, I would imagine, but right now, right here, right now, it's particularly pertinent. That question, is it time, gentlemen, to scrap sponsor exemptions on the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, LPGA, so on and so forth? Now, why are we asking that question this week? Well, the Memorial Tournament is taking place at Muirfield Village, Jack's Place, as they like to call it. Every time you hear Jack's Place mentioned on the coverage this week, drink a shot, and I promise you, you'll be hammered by 7 o'clock on Thursday night.
On Monday if we do that.
So, yeah, the Memorial, a huge event, a prestigious event, long-standing event, and for what it's worth, a signature event on the PGA Tour. Straight away, questions to be asked about whether limited field, I think I'm right in saying signature events are no cut as well. I think maybe not. Lewis, you're giving me a funny look.
No, I don't think they are.
They're
I
not,
think there's
okay.
a
But
cut,
they're reduced field events, aren't
reduced
they?
field.
Mm-hmm.
So straight away, you have to wonder, should we be giving invites to an event that has a smaller field anyway? That's part of the argument. But really, this has bubbled up because of the 4 players who have been invited to play. But really, this has become a big deal because of the 4 players that have been invited to play this week, have been given those sponsors exemptions. So we've got Ricky Fowler, we've got Jordan Spieth, we've got Matt Kuchar, and we've got Brandt Snedeker. 4 really promising young up-and-coming players who are all absolutely on form at this moment in time. So, yeah, people are saying, wait a minute, we're giving sponsors exemptions to these guys who've had their opportunities, guys who've, lost their way of getting into this event and by other means, by good form, by their world ranking, whatever. Yeah, people are looking at this a bit more closely. Lewis, your thoughts on this one in particular and sponsors exemptions more broadly. Where do you stand?
It's not a great look this week. Like you say, you'd hope that sponsors exemptions would be used for someone like Blades Brown, for example, young guy coming through just out of college. But I do get it in that they're probably going to bring eyeballs. Like if Jordan Spieth's in contention or if Ricky Fowler's in contention, there's a good chance a lot of people are going to tune in and sponsors are going to want to see that. So for me, I would love it if they'd invite young kids who are, promising talents to come through. But I do see why sponsors will want these players in the field if they're not already in. Generally, like on sponsors exemptions, I think I completely get why they're there. Like I say, I think.
So why are they there? Go on. What do you think the reason is?
For this exact reason, if someone like Jordan Spieth, who's missing out on being in, who's a huge name in golf, is going to attract a lot of people to either tune into the event or potentially even go and watch it if they're a fan of his, to get him in and keep sponsors happy to an extent, if it means more people watch the event, they're going to be happy.
But do we think that they're having that kind of material impact on viewership? Because these guys have played in events already this year and over the last couple of years. And if anything, TV viewership for golf has been in decline when these guys have been in fields. So to what extent are they moving the needle? Are people tuning in the numbers that we assume they are to watch Jordan Spieth? More to the point, does anyone want to watch a Jordan Spieth who is as woefully out of form as he currently is?
It's hard to gauge exactly how many people are tuning in just to watch him. But I would say if he's someone at the top of the leaderboard, it's more interest. We were talking about it with the PGA Championship when it's big names at the top of the leaderboard. If it was Spieth there, that would have brought a lot of attention, and we'd have been talking about that a lot in the Jordan Spieth. He's the poster boy for sponsors exemptions here.
He would appear to be.
Yeah, for me anyway. That he would have brought a lot of attention to that event. That's what sponsors want to happen. So will it increase eyeballs and visibility? I think there's a good chance that it would, yeah.
Okay. James, your thoughts, same question to you. Lewis has got really laid out his position. Where do you feel, or how do you feel about sponsors exemptions for this week specifically and more broadly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to piggyback off of what Lewis has said, but he's not wrong. I think you have guys like Fowler and Spieth who, a lot of us are kind of grown up watching. Like, there will be people that want to see them and tune in and watch them, but on the other hand, when you've got guys like Kuchar and Snedeker, you're like, why are they there? So it is obviously to try and keep, sponsors happy and maybe have their say and who they want to choose. But I also think that at the end of the day as well, what they should be doing is guys should be also earning their kind of sponsors exemption on merit. Whether that's, getting a really good finish in one of the tournaments. Maybe it's some guy who's been on Corn Ferry and he's had a really good finish, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're now exempt to play in this event. It should be done like that. It shouldn't be guys who are, like you said, missing cuts, aren't really going to contend. That's kind of where I stand, and I just think they're giving away too many spots to guys who aren't going to compete. Yes, it's nice that they're giving the sponsors that ability to have a bit of say, but I think they should flip it around and be like, oh, this is our guy who earned our sponsorship spot. Like, we're rooting for him this week. Let's, best of luck to that player.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those four names this week, it does feel a little bit like jobs for the boys, doesn't it? It's the same old boys club that, the passes seem to go around. We need to point out, for Fowler and Spieth in particular, it's their 5th sponsors exemption into a signature event this year alone.
Yeah.
I think there's only been 5 signature events.
That's all of them,
so
isn't it?
They're getting essentially almost guaranteed money.
Yeah.
They're certainly getting ranking points. They're getting opportunities that younger guys playing better golf right now aren't getting. And I just think it's, like you guys, I do understand the perceived logic. I genuinely don't believe that Ricky Fowler playing this week versus Ricky Fowler not playing this week is going to have a material impact on either attendance at the event or viewership on TV. I don't think he's going to move the needle to that extent. Likewise, Jordan Spieth. And certainly I don't believe anybody is cancelling their plans for Sunday to watch Matt Kuchar.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling to really... I'm struggling to really buy into what is the sponsors are seeing. Because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
I think it's also... excuse me. You could also say that, doesn't this fly in the face a little bit of the PGA Tour's supposed meritocracy? It has spoken a lot about how you only get what you earn on the PGA Tour. It's used that against LIV ever since LIV appeared 3 years ago. Everything's earned on the PGA Tour. Well, no.
Yeah.
I mean, people will say, oh, but they've earned the opportunity to get the invite. Yeah, but they've not earned their way into this week.
No.
They're living off past glories. And I mean, relative glories at that. Only one of those guys is a major champion.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm really, really struggling with why those guys are getting in. I don't expect any of them will get much TV coverage this week. I don't see Matt Kuchar or Brandt Snedeker being in a featured group. I can't imagine Fowler. Spieth's the only one that's got an outside chance of being in a featured group. So what are they doing there?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, looking at whether you'd scrap it or not, I wouldn't scrap sponsors exemptions because I think there's good examples where that could work. Look at Gary Woodland, for example, coming back from illness. If you invite him into your event, that's going to have a positive impact. I would like to see less sponsors exemptions for each event. I think 4 in this case is too many, but I still think that for the event, it can be a positive if they're used in the right way. For this specific example, inviting Kuchar and Snedeker, I don't know why that's seen as a positive, to be honest. I think Fowler and Spieth, I can see the appeal there and that they're 2 very popular players. Get why sponsors would want them playing, but the other guys, yes, it seems a strange one for me.
I think we just assume that Fowler and Spieth are that popular. I think they're not popular to the extent that they are going to, I keep saying it, move the needle this week. I genuinely don't think they are.
Right.
We
Maybe
talk
not.
a lot about their popularity, but show me the evidence. Like, let's back it up. Like, I get it. You know, we see some kids in the past have worn orange at events for Ricky Fowler. We know he signs lots of autographs. We know he's a good guy. That's not up for debate. But this idea that he's this hugely popular, brings lots of eyeballs, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it.
Do you think he's kind of past it?
I mean, slightly different question. Let me rephrase your question for you. Have we seen the best of Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth? Without a shadow of a doubt, we have.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. So again, that feels like a bit of a waste of an exemption. Or invitation, rather.
Yeah.
James, we've spoken about this a little bit in the office over the past few months, and you made the point of the chap, forgive me, I'm blanking on his name, but it was the guy that was the pro at Michael Jordan's golf club, the Grove 23, that got the invite to play in the Dubai Invitational last year.
Yeah.
And bless him, the guy finished dead last. But did that in itself not expose a major issue with sponsors' invites, which is they're a little bit unregulated?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I'm also blanking on his name as well. But,
I'll look it up.
but that was like a cricket score of like a score that that he obviously played, but it was
Ken Wayand.
That's the one.
Ken someone
Finished in last place, 72 strokes behind the winner, Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah, I mean,
what a waste.
A classic example of why sponsors shouldn't have a say on who competes in a golf tournament, in my opinion. I think I'm a big advocate. I think there should be sponsors exemptions.
You've just said they should have a say.
Yeah.
No, contradicted yourself.
No. Hear me out. They should have exemptions, but they shouldn't have the right to say who plays. It should be earned, and those exemptions should be in a previous tournament. So if a sponsor has like a spot in the Memorial, for example, that should be available in the previous tournament. So if someone has played their way and played well in that spot, then they should be able to get into the next tournament.
That's not a sponsor's invite, though.
So you think
that's a
you're
basic
meaning
example.
like if someone was to like win last week, then they'd get into that's not like that happens.
Or win not necessarily win last week, but place like in a certain kind of area where they might not be able or may not be necessarily already exempt, but they played their way into that tournament.
Yeah, but then that falls into like being a meritocracy. Like that's what we're talking about. And that if someone plays well, which is great, if someone has a good week last week, and there's things like the Aon top 5, forgive me if that's not exactly the right terminology, you know.
It may be
you know
Comcast now, I'm not sure.
You know what I mean. I think there's both actually, like top 5 swing or something. Whatever.
The Doubletree by Hilton.
I could be getting tours mixed up here, AT&T something. But if guys are playing well, like Ben Griffin's a good example of this at the start of the year. Yeah. He's had 2 wins to start the season. Probably going to be in all the signature events coming up now. But for like a sponsor's invite, it could be someone like Ken from a couple of years back, where he's been plucked from a club where someone's trying to, curry favor clearly, and he's turned up and shot $1 million, which isn't a good look at all.
It was $1.3 million.
$1.3 million, right? If you got a scorecard
right here.
Yeah, that's tough. So it's a kind of murky world. I think a lot of people probably don't realize that this is happening. Like players, fans, will look at players like Spieth, Kuchar, Snedeker and think, oh yeah, they're in there because they're a big name. They've probably qualified, but in actual fact, they haven't. So
they're in there because of the body of work that they've compiled over the course of 20 years. The trouble is, none of that work has really been done in the last 2 or 3 years.
No.
So again, I bring it back to the point of, what are they actually adding to the tournament?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. In terms of being a competitive force, I don't see it. Now, look, I'm going to look really stupid if this time next week we're sitting here talking about Brandt Snedeker's 10-shot win in the Memorial. But
it's not going to happen.
Honestly, it's not. You're right. It's not. What you're describing there, James, I mean, I think that falls into like many order of merits and, ranking that happens throughout the course of the season, which is absolutely the right way.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to have sponsors having invites, and I genuinely think there's a big question to be asked about whether or not they should, then I think it needs to be better regulated. The sponsor needs to be provided with a list of names, and that list, 20, 30, I don't know, but that should be the list that they choose from. At the moment, as I understand it, certainly with certain events and certain tours, a sponsor can pick anybody they like. So let's use an example that's totally unfair. Okay, let's say Tim Cook, man in charge of Apple, decides that he wants to sponsor what was the Wells Fargo. It's now going to be called the Apple Invitational. It's going to be played at Quail Hollow, and his nephew is an aspiring tour pro. Just so happens he's also shit. Okay,
Yeah.
You can aspire all you want, but he's not very good at golf. So, what is to stop Tim Cook right now from giving his 2-handicap nephew a spot in his event that he's underwriting the cost for? At the moment, nothing. So I think we need to have better regulations in place, some opportunity for tours to have a veto and have at least a say. Otherwise, where are we going to draw the line?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I feel like my point, what I was trying to say was, it's like when there are guys that maybe are playing good golf that maybe aren't quite in the tournament, but they are in that kind of certain pool of players, the sponsor should be picking from that.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to
having
that
list.
Yeah, having that list, and then be like, right, cool. Not having someone who's someone's an FE playing off too, or someone's head pro at a golf club. Oh yeah, just come and play in this. Nothing like that, but from a certain pool of players.
The other point is this, guys. Would a sponsor putting up the money there's no way of answering this properly, but is the opportunity of picking players to play in that event as much of a deal breaker as some people would have us believe?
It's hard. You're right. There's no sort of way of answering it, because for some it could be. Like if, for example, your Apple one's maybe quite good, but let's say it's
Genesis.
Yeah. If they were to sponsor a player, and I think this does happen with the Scottish Open, if they're sponsoring a golfer and they say, we're going to invite this golfer in, regardless of whether they're having a good season or not, that could be maybe not quite a deal breaker, but it could be a bit of a problem. And in this case, if it's Genesis Scottish Open, the DP World Tour could say, well, we want them to be happy. So if that means inviting one of their players in, then so be it. So it might not be a deal breaker, but it could be a very, lucrative, kind of a big point, important point for these sponsors. That
do you see any sponsor pulling their money and their support if they're told we're actually not going to allow you exemptions anymore?
Might not be the only factor, but if there's other factors, if they're saying we're not getting as many eyeballs on the tournament, you're looking at declining TV figures, and now they're being told we can't invite these players that we want, then that could be
the straw.
It could be the straw.
But in and of itself,
and if that was the only issue, then no, I don't think so.
James?
Yeah, I kind of think, yes, similar, to be fair. I think if, like Genesis at the Scottish Open, if they turn around and it's like, right, we're going to invite Joe Bloggs from down the road, but then the tour turned around and be like, right, we're canning exemptions. They might have something to say about it, and it could be like, could be a little bit hairy, but I think at the end of the day, the amount of advertising and billboards and cars and everything that is around the golf course anyway, their exposure for the company is still going to get a lot of eyeballs.
Exactly.
Instead of someone who's not getting any TV coverage and missing the cut.
Bingo.
So I think when you look at it that way, are they really missing out? No.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I've had a bee in my bonnet, as you can probably tell by now, about sponsors' invites for a very long time. I think that they're too open to abuse. I don't think anybody has wildly abused it to this point. Certainly not an egregious abuse or anything like that. But it seems a bit unregulated, seems a bit unfettered. Do as you please. And yeah, that just makes me a bit uncomfortable at a time when, we want the best players playing, and by that I don't mean the biggest names. We want the best golfers, the most competitive ones playing. Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, right now, they're not the most competitive golfers, so they shouldn't be part of this limited field event. I just think it's wrong. I think the tours need to take closer heed of it. I also don't think anything's going to change. I don't see Jay Monaghan as a guy with, sufficient of a spine to, stand up to sponsors. He's lost quite a few of them over the last few years. Honda, Wells Fargo is some examples. So I don't see him in a strong enough bargaining position, even if he wanted to be. Even if he wanted to have the conversation with sponsors. But murky, I think, is the word.
Even the name sponsors exemptions, it just sounds dirty, doesn't it? Like it's horrible, but it's like
sponsors exemptions sounds like a TV show that you'd maybe have watched at 11:30 on Channel 5 back in the day. Oh God, Mum and Dad have gone to bed.
Way, but yeah, bloody hell,
better turn on sponsors exemptions.
Sponsors exemptions, yeah.
What happens on that?
Tell you off there.
Right, okay, yeah. Let's move that one on.
Let's indeed move that one on. We were going to talk a little bit about Lucas Glover, but I'm not that moved by it. So basically, Lucas Glover, former US Open champion, has a lot to say. He's got as many hot takes as Greg's has hot steak bakes. Greg's is getting a lot of airtime on the podcast. But yeah, he likes his takes piping hot. And he was saying over the weekend that most guys don't give the testers their real driver anyway, basically accusing many of his fellow pros of cheating. I think we kind of covered that on last week's episode, but very quickly, James, has he got a point? Is that justified? Can you see how that might work?
I get where he's coming from when he says they're maybe cheating the driver system in terms of they're not giving their playing driver necessarily to them. But that's what I said last week. Every driver that they have in their bag should be tested. That's what we do as well.
If they take a head, they should have it tested.
If they take one head, they should take all the heads that they have, regardless if it's a backup, a practice head, whatever it may be. Obviously, Lucas Glover said that some guys are just giving one head, and it's not necessarily their gamer head. It was like, oh, just test this one. I find that kind of hard to believe that guys are maybe doing that, but like I said, it's like trying to cheat the system and trying to gain an advantage. Like, I don't think these guys would necessarily go that far and do that. I think when you're hitting a driver as much as you are, and the numbers are still producing the same spin, the same ball speed, the same flight characteristics, you're not really going to know if it is like compromised or not.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty of it. It's like, you can say, oh, they're cheating the system, but if they've got a driver which they like, then yeah, okay, fine. But I think where he's coming from and saying they're not necessarily giving their playing head, that's where it's a little bit like, all right, if guys are actually doing that, then maybe some of them do know something that we don't. That's where
it's a heavy accusation.
Yeah, it's a big accusation.
Up with zero proof whatsoever. Yeah. Basically just saying, I play on tour, guys. Trust me.
Yeah.
Not sure.
It's one of those, it's hard to go against because he's been on tour for so long, but you also think we would have heard about this before. Like someone if leaks are getting out about guys failing, then someone who tests drivers regularly is going to realize if someone turns up with a driver that they're not using. Like if they test one on Wednesday and then every week they're suddenly making a last minute change to the driver on Thursday morning, like I'd be shocked if we hadn't heard about this before. It seems a wild thing to say.
Very
true. From the point of the testers, if I was a tester and I'm hearing Lucas Glover say that, I'm going, hold on, Lucas. You're only telling us now.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
You're aware of cheating going on tour and you're not saying anything, but now you are.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lucas.
Jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I think so.
A little bit.
Anyway, look, before we get to the break, it is time for Asked and Answered. As always, gentlemen, I'm going to read you an answer and you have to reverse engineer it and tell me what the question is. This week, if the answer is an ordained monk, then what is the question? Whilst you're having a little think, some of the answers that we got from followers on social media. Tom Hosey is the question. Who's going to be the next? Who's going to be the next signing for Live Golf?
Well, funny you say that, Tom. Interesting.
Jeez, oh.
Could be onto something there.
The Ordained Monks does sound like a Live team, to
Yeah,
be absolutely
well,
fair, doesn't it? It's better than Range Goats.
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Who's going to win the team
I would support
championship?
them.
Stinger, Range Goats, 4 Aces, or Ordained Monks?
Yeah.
Team Ordained Monks all the way. Cameron Wright. Who does Ricky Fowler take his Sunday outfit inspiration from?
Brilliant.
Ricky's getting a little bit tight this week. Thank you, Cameron. Jamie Devlin. Now Jordan Spieth's getting it. Jamie Devlin. Who's more likely to win the career Grand Slam before Jordan Spieth?
God. Yeah.
That's very good.
That is absolutely ended me. Oh, amazing. Well played, Jamie. Actually, well played, Jamie.
That's one of the
That
best
is
ones
so
I've heard.
good. Michael Taylor, in order to secure sponsorship from Hooters, what did John Daly tell them he was? I'm actually... I'm not sure it makes a whole lot of sense.
No, I don't really get.
No,
But I
well,
like it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you went up
No.
and said, I'm John Daly, 2-time major champion, all-round bad boy of golf, I think Hooters are more likely to give him
Yeah.
sponsorship than I'm John Daly.
yeah.
Don't think Hooters are going to be sponsoring any monks
I
anytime
also
soon.
don't
No.
think they're necessarily fussy.
No,
Maybe
well,
I'm not
that's
giving them the
true.
credit they're due.
I don't know.
That's
Oh,
brilliant.
amazing. And finally, Dean Jameson. If Scotty Scheffler wasn't a pro golfer, what would he be?
Yeah, quite probably. Yeah.
Very good.
Do they
Yeah.
make ravioli in monasteries?
Oh, I don't know.
They make buckfast in monasteries.
Yeah, they
Look
do.
that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And try
Scotland's
it
national
if
drink.
you haven't.
Yeah.
Never tried buckfast. Genuinely,
Have you not?
I have never tried buckfast.
Really?
Doesn't appeal.
Well, yeah.
If I wanted to have cough syrup, I would have cough syrup.
Yeah, it's
Nah,
not
it's
great.
not cough syrup. It's rocket fuel.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it. If you've not had it to this point, you're not really. I wouldn't.
I'm not missing anything.
No, you're not.
But
missing
when you
anything.
become an ordained monk, you can try it.
yeah, you can make some of your own.
Oh, that is brilliant. Anyway, gentlemen, okay, if the answer is an ordained monk, what is the question? Lewis, what have you got?
What would Tommy Two Gloves Gainey have to become to atone him for his sins? Then he is?
Jesus. Oh my God.
Is that not the answer?
That's an answer.
Yeah.
Oh my words. You've gone there.
Bloody hell, Lewis.
You've actually thrown me.
Sorry.
If you're
Wasn't
not sure
expecting
what
that,
we're
eh?
talking about, or
Just
what,
Google
rather
it.
what Lewis, this is all on Lewis. If you're not sure what Lewis is talking
That's
about,
brilliant.
just Google Tommy Gainey arrest.
Mm.
And I'll leave it at that.
Not good. Should it?
No,
Shouldn't be making light of that. It's not good.
But you did.
Yeah.
James, I dread to think.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, Lewis.
Oh my God.
Who's the next sponsorship exemption going to go to?
Tell you, they've got a better chance, it would seem, than Blades Brown
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah.
No, you are all wrong, all of you. And I will give you the right answer, the
Okay.
other side of the commercial break. Do not go anywhere.
With the Golf and More card, you only pay half the green fee on over 1,400 courses in Europe. For instance, you have almost 300 courses to choose from in South Europe and almost 250 courses in Great Britain. Join over 100,000 golfers across Europe. Get a Golf and More card and play more golf. If you go to golfamore.com/bunkered, you can enter a raffle to win a Golf and More card. If you prefer to buy a Golf and More card right away, you'll find a special bunkered discount code on the same page. Visit golfamore.com/bunkered today. Golf and More. More golf for the money.
Welcome back. Part 2 of this week's Bunkered podcast in association with Callaway Golf, Michael, James, and Lewis, aka the Tommy Gainey hater or
Well,
prosecutor
yeah.
or whatever you are.
The
Honestly,
executioner.
that's from the top rope, man. Absolutely
Yeah,
from the top rope.
Not a fan.
No.
No. Of
What,
Tommy
of the
Gainey.
behaviour or Tommy Gainey?
Well, both because of his behaviour.
Yeah, Tommy
Yeah.
Two Gloves Gainey.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Move on,
Honestly, that is wow.
Stone you.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, right. So the question, rather, you have thrown me. You've
Sorry.
completely. If the answer is an ordained monk, what is the question? The correct answer is who qualified for the Open Championship at the weekend?
Yeah.
We're
Really?
going to have a monk at Portrush.
Mm-hmm.
Sadom Kaukanjana, he won the Colon Korea Open, where there was a place at Royal Portrush up for grabs. But a couple of years ago, he turned his back on pro golf. He'd played a few events in Live,
Yep.
from memory. He
First
turned his
season
back.
he played.
Was he there for the whole season?
I don't think it was the first. I don't think it was the full season, but certainly
was
played
there
some
anyway, yeah.
the first year.
He was one of the early adopters, and
Yep.
then
Mhm.
turned his back on golf for a little while to become an ordained monk. So
Good on him.
yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Fair play.
Something different,
Yeah.
isn't it?
He's not going to have temper tantrums on the golf course, is he? You wouldn't
You
think.
say that. Let's
Yeah.
go and follow him in Port Rush and see
Yeah.
what he's like.
Yeah, that'd be
Just an
interesting.
absolute raj.
Maybe.
Maybe that's why he's no longer in the monastery.
Possibly. Yeah, we'll see.
Tell
I
you
need
what.
to go and seek him out.
Give him a sponsor's invite.
Definitely. Yeah, that'd be cool. That is a good story.
There we go.
Absolutely.
Very good.
So thank you for your suggestions. Another Asked and Answered next week. And we will be plugging that on our brand new Facebook page. I just completely stumbled over what the social media platform
Yeah,
was there
Facebook.
for a second.
There's too
Facebook.
many these days.
Far
isn't
too many. Blue Sky will be next.
Yeah.
Bring back Bebo. That's what I said. So yeah, we now have a Bunkered Podcast Facebook page, facebook.com/The Bunkered Podcast. You can go there where you can join the conversation, see clips of the show. You can make suggestions. You can interact with us three. You can probably even interact with producer Dex if he decides to log on. Very secretive on social media. Doesn't like to get involved, but
No.
we will drag him kicking and screaming.
He's
into the
shaking his
Facebook
head.
world.
at the
You'd think
moment.
he's
It's
an
not gonna
ordained monk.
happen. Yeah.
So yeah, exclusive giveaways, exclusive competitions. You'll be finding those on the Facebook page as well. Facebook.com/The Bunkered Podcast. Right. So, gentlemen, you guys can put the feet up just for 20 minutes or so because we have a very special guest joining us on the show at this point. I didn't mean literally, James. Oh my God. So last week, I was very lucky to catch up with someone who I always looked up to and admired when I was growing up, someone who had a big influence on me and wanted to become a journalist because I just thought what he did was so cool. I thought how he did it was so impressive. And that is the former BBC voice of sport. I'm calling him that because that's what he was to me, Steve Ryder. If you recall sport on the BBC in the 80s, 90s, and for that matter, ITV, he was there too. If you recall any live sport on British TV during the late 80s, early 90s, in fact, most of the 90s, then you will certainly recognise Steve's face. He has hosted everything from Grandstand, God rest its soul, what a great show that was, to, of course, the Open Championship, the Masters, the Ryder Cup. He's done it all. Steve was also, a couple of years ago, diagnosed with prostate cancer. And delighted to say that he is in recovery from that. He's keeping well. But he is also throwing his weight now behind Prostate Cancer UK's big golf race. You may or may not be familiar with it, but the big golf race exists to try and raise both money and awareness of prostate cancer, and certainly raise money into research for prostate cancer cures. At the moment, 1 in 8 men in the UK will be diagnosed with prostate cancer at some point in their lifetime. So let's try and put that into a little bit of more context. 1 person in every 2 4-balls at your golf course is going to be diagnosed with prostate cancer. And that's just not right. That's not fathomable to us. That's not acceptable. Luckily, we've got the good people at Prostate Cancer UK who are doing everything that they can, everything in their power to research the reasons why prostate cancer happens, and more importantly, try and find cures and treatments. It is eminently curable if you catch it early enough. So that's why getting tested, men, you're listening, of a certain age or otherwise, get tested. It's a quick test, it's a painless test, and it might just save your life. So, yeah, Steve is throwing his weight behind the big golf race, which is Prostate Cancer UK's biggest fundraising event of the year. The challenge is pretty simple. Play as much golf in a single day as you possibly can. 100 holes if you can manage it. 36, 54, 72. Listen, 18's fine as well. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that on an upcoming episode. But like I say, it was great to catch up with Steve to hear how he's doing, why he's supporting Prostate Cancer UK, but equally to hear some of his amazing anecdotes, and they are genuinely amazing, about his time covering golf. So without any further ado, here is Mr. Steve Ryder. Okay, it is my absolute pleasure now to be joined by a man whose face and voice will be familiar to so many of you listening in and watching all around the world. It is, of course, the long-time voice of sport on the BBC, Steve Ryder. Steve, a very warm welcome to the Bunkered Podcast.
Thank you very much indeed. Glad to be here and share a few of those reminiscences.
I'm sure we shall. I'm sure we shall. First and foremost, they'll be brought together by Prostate Cancer UK. I can see in the background that you've got a nice display for them there. So Prostate Cancer UK obviously have the big golf race once again taking place pretty much over the next few weeks. I mean, the nights are fair extending, as we would
Yeah.
say in Scotland, and the challenge is very simple. We're looking for golfers to go out and play as much golf as they possibly can, 100 holes if they're particularly up for it, to try and raise money and awareness of prostate cancer. Now, this is obviously a cause and an issue, if you like, that has particularly personal meaning for you, Steve. If you wouldn't mind, and as much as you feel comfortable sharing, could you perhaps explain why this is such an important matter for you?
Yeah, happy to share my experience in that respect because I was so fortunate. I had a routine medical about 18 months ago, a slightly higher PSA reading, which didn't bother me at all. But my wife was a lot more concerned and sent me off for all the tests. And I was told that I needed the operation urgently, and by urgent, they meant within about the next 2 or 3 weeks. So I was able to tie up all the commitments with ITV that we had and had the operation, and everything has been clear since. But the message I've been trying to get across is that it was luck, it was good fortune that gave me that break, and other people shouldn't rely on coincidence to get ahead of their knowledge and awareness of this condition. So if we can get the message to as many 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and beyond, just to be aware that this thing can creep up on you with no symptoms at all, but it is in your control to change the destiny and the direction of the condition. But you must get tested and you must be aware. It is the number one killer, really, for men. And simple awareness of the implications of prostate cancer can not only save you the ultimate result, but also give you a much greater quality of life going forward. So it's an important message to get across, and it's a particularly appropriate one for golfers. Where it's that kind of community where people talk and people have a particular vulnerability in terms of age and everything else. So it's great that the golf community are getting involved in awareness of prostate cancer, and I'll try and do my bit as well.
Good for you, Steve, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing well and you're keeping well. As you say, it is the number one killer for men in the UK, I believe. 1 in 8 men will in their lifetime be diagnosed with it. And when you think about it in a golf context, that's 1 in every 2 4 balls. One person, if you take 2 4 balls, then one person within those two is statistically likely to end up being diagnosed. So it's when you put it in those terms, it becomes even more stark, doesn't it? You realize just how prevalent something like this is. And yet it feels like we're reaching a point where such great things are being done, both by Prostate Cancer UK, but equally societally. I feel like as men, we're not predisposed to talking about these conditions, or certainly haven't been in the past. But now the discourse is changing and people seem a bit more open and willing to discuss and go and get checked out.
Yeah, I mean, and the alternative conversation is not particularly appetizing if you ignore it either. So, the great thing about golf clubs and is that you walk into any golf club and they have experience of the condition. They have members, probably 1 in 8 of their members are experiencing the implications of prostate cancer and the limitations and the challenges and so on. So the golf clubs are particularly predisposed to say, right, what can we do? How can we get the message across? And we're just tapping into that. And you get to play some golf at the same time, which is both part of it.
Yeah, that's a nice added benefit of what Prostate Cancer UK are doing with the big golf race. So yeah, like you, I'm sure I would urge anybody to go and get involved. What better reason to go and play 4 rounds of golf, 5 rounds of golf in one day, raising awareness and some money at the same time. So yeah, do get in touch with people if you, or get involved rather, if you want to play your part. Steve, I'm curious. I want to know about your time at the BBC in the halcyon days, if you don't mind, when it felt, growing up for me certainly, that anytime I turned on the telly, and there were only 4 channels at that point, but anytime I turned on the telly, it felt like I was getting served loads and loads of sport, and particularly golf. And you were the man at the heart of the action. What were those days like when the BBC was really the standard bearer of live sport?
Well, I mean, they were extraordinary. I came from ITV. The first major event I did was for ITV. I helped present the 1980 Olympics in Moscow, and then went on and worked with Dickie Davis on World of Sport. But you always felt that if the call came from the BBC, then it was like then turning professional. And I was lucky enough to make the move across in 1985. And because I'd done the Masters and various golf events for ITV, I was sort of parachuted in to do the Masters contract, which returned to the BBC weirdly in 1986. And they were extraordinary times. And you sit back now and you watch the coverage that comes from the Augusta National with all the technology and all the graphics and everything else that surrounds it. And you think back to where we were in 1985. I remember we used to present from the balcony of the Augusta National clubhouse, iconic view looking down the veranda and the lawn and the 18th green and so on. But our studio, we had two bar stools in the corner of the balcony, and we weren't able to occupy them until half an hour before transmission because that was the seating position of Gene Sarazen and Alistair Cook from America, and every day they had to sit there and they had their glass of whatever it was up until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they would, on you go, chaps, have a good show, and you just think, I mean, it was like connecting with the history of the Masters and the generation of golfers that have made their names around the Augusta National as well. So it sort of was a wonderful opportunity to really sort of get to the heart of the emotion of the Masters and the Augusta National and so on. And then just so lucky from then on, because not only did we get the Masters every single year, but we entered into that golden period. The first couple that I presented for the BBC, we had Jack Nicklaus winning. We had Larry Myers chipping in to beat Greg Norman. But traditionally, we would always start the Masters coverage by saying, before we get on to, seeing how the green jacket is going to be won, let's just explain what's happened to the British players because they'd all gone by there. And then suddenly along came Sandy. And Nick Faldo and Ian Woosnam and everything else. And we were just in that golden period. Wonderful.
Yeah, it certainly was. This might have been at ITV, but remind me, 1982, something happened with Craig Smith, didn't it? I don't want to bring back bad memories, but maybe.
Well, it's not because it was it's a very big stepping stone in my career that I was brought in to do the linking in the London studio at that time. We weren't going out to Augusta for the 1982 Masters. And it was my first major. Strangely, ITV in those days had probably more golf than the BBC. We were doing things like the European Open and the Bob Hope Classic and stuff like that. But no, I was doing the Masters. And there was a moment I was sitting in the studio with the great Renton Laidlaw. And the instruction came through. Could we just put the studio lights on at 5 to midnight? There is a little bit of a question mark over the satellite booking, and it won't be a problem. But let's have the studio lights up anyway. And the clock ticked past midnight, which was the horrible deadline, and nothing happened. So lights go back down. And immediately color bars come up from Augusta. And at this point, I think Craig Stadler was on the 18th tee, heading for a playoff with Dan Pohl. We lost all communication. And it wasn't like, the technology you have these days where somebody puts a plug in a hole and, oh, sorry, we're back in about 10 seconds. It was gone. And there was only one other satellite across the Atlantic, which we couldn't have until the following Tuesday. So, and there were no mobile phones. So we had two ITV executives who were enjoying a mint julep at the clubhouse and had no idea that we'd fallen off the air. And Renton and I talked about goodness knows what. I mean, he was such a great raconteur anyway. He was a joy to have along. 45 minutes, and we came off the air without ever knowing the result. And it had gone to a playoff, which made it even worse.
Oh my goodness.
And we staggered away. And I remember picking up the Daily Mail on the Tuesday, and Ian Wooldridge, who was the voice of sports journalism in those days, said, and this was the text on my network debut, and I've still got it framed in my study. He said, ITV should never again be entrusted with a major sporting event. And he was probably right. But as a result of that, Jonathan Martin, the head of sport at the BBC, had seen what had happened and sort of, he handled himself okay in a fairly dire situation. And he said, that was the first step towards them asking me to join the BBC, which is
My goodness, what a debut! What a debut!
what a debut, eh?
But it all got better from there on. And
Oh my goodness, yeah.
You mentioned Renton there, who really was a wonderful man. You had the great privilege of working with so many men, great voices over the years at BBC. Perhaps none more so than Peter Allis. I mean, probably one of the most famous voices, I think, in all of sport, never mind golf.
Yeah.
Insight into what Peter was like.
Oh, he was a dear friend as well as everything else, and that friendship really fostered through our time at Augusta more than anything else. Because I mean, you've been out there, it's a very different kind of a tournament, and there are no great barriers once you're accepted. It's a very easy tournament to work at and involve yourself in. But we rented the same house at Westlake, which is about 2 miles from Augusta, and we had the same house for 21 years. And the family grew up as we were there. The daughter, who was I think 11 or 12 when we first started renting their house, is now the editor of the Augusta Chronicle. And the whole thing. And Peter would leave a bottle of whiskey in the bottom of the wardrobe every year and come back and finish it. It was just a wonderful opportunity to sit back, and people like Colin Montgomery will be down the road. He'd come up for an evening and so on. And you just sit there with Peter with a bottle of red wine, and he would put his feet up and start telling the stories of the great days of the PGA Tour and his experiences in America and everything else. And it got very indiscreet at times as well, but very memorable. Very memorable.
Fantastic. Peter's style of commentary was unique. I mean, the sort of flowery descriptions and his ability to make a story and a link out of absolutely anything. I don't think it was by chance or by luck. I mean, he was just an exceptionally talented broadcaster.
Absolutely.
Don't get that so much these days. I feel like, commentary these days has evolved and has changed, and it's a lot more stats based. Now, maybe that's just adapting to match consumer demand, but that style, Peter style, seems to have been.
To be honest, I think he would struggle in the modern environment where things aren't allowed to stay still. Peter's great strength when he really came into his own was on the final day of the World Match Play, when you only had two players out on the course and nothing else to talk about apart from a couple of ducks waddling along a fairway or something like that, which he could talk about for 2 or 3 minutes. These days, and it's not a negative, but there are so many replays and stats and analysis and so on that the storytelling in commentary doesn't represent the same opportunity to let things breathe and in the same way as Peter was able to. Having said that, I mean, I've never known anyone quite so professional that he could. And I don't know how he did it. He could embark on a story, and everyone in the commentary box would be falling about laughing, and he'd be off on a complete tangent. The minute a player settled over the ball to play a shot or a putt, he was back in commentary mode. And that was the great professionalism of Peter. He could be both things. He could be a very analytical and experienced commentator and a great storyteller as well. And he managed to incorporate it all into the job of being a golf commentator.
You certainly did. I feel like it maybe took me a little bit of time to appreciate him, and maybe even more so now that he's gone. I think you look back and you realise, actually, those were really good days. Now, of course, there's not so much live sport really on free-to-air TV. golf particularly, I mean, unless you have a subscription for Sky or whatever else, then you're not going to see much of it. How much of a disappointment is that for you, Steve, as someone who was, as I say, the standard bearer of live sport on free TV?
Well, it was a big disappointment. And having said that, what Sky do these days, and you have to put your hand in your pocket, I know, but at least it's available. And at least you have the opportunity, if that is your choice, to see all the great tournaments and all the great players and to see it all live. At its peak, I think the BBC had about 15 live tournaments a year. And that was in, the height of things around about the early 90s and so on. That disappeared virtually overnight. And the biggest regret for me is that the BBC didn't put up more of a fight, because there were, to my mind, formulas and approaches by which a compromise could have been reached. I mean, for example, the final day of the Masters, McIlroy's victory at the Masters, which to my mind, I was there for 22 years. That is the greatest final day I have ever seen. And it reached an audience of about 1.8 million. When Sandy won in the late 80s, I think we were about 11, 12 million. And it is such a loss for the game of golf that the great moments can't be put in front of the maximum live audience. And it's no criticism of Sky. Commercially, they're doing exactly the right thing. But I don't think the BBC went in there and said, look, we can deliver an audience. We can't maybe deliver the money that Sky is paying for you, but think about the last day of the Ryder Cup or the last day of the Masters, and how golf will benefit by putting those kind of occasions in front of the maximum possible audience. And everyone will feel the commercial benefit of that, Sky and the other broadcasters as well. I don't think that argument ever was appeal to the hierarchy at the BBC, and they never delivered that argument. And as a result, it was surrender at the Open, fairly rapidly, and virtually all live golf has now disappeared.
And we are where we are.
And so has that audience, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely right. You mentioned Open there. I mean, I have to ask you about that. Very different beast to covering the Masters. Exceptionally long days, early starts, late finishes. But what a privilege to be involved in the oldest professional championship of them all.
Oh, absolutely. And as you say, it was Thursday and Friday at the Open was a feat of endurance as much as anything else. You've been on the air 5.5 hours and you haven't even seen the afternoon starters go out yet. But it was wonderful and great experiences at the Open, and it was the BBC at its best. It was Peter at his best, and the great knowledge and the great traditions. I had the experience, I think, in 2000 of hosting the champions 4-hole parade, as it were, and to stand on the tee with every single Open champion, living Open champion, I think bar one. I mean, that was just, and you're thinking, what am I doing here? And, doing the introductions and so on, and, having a chat with every single Open champion as they went out with the crowds 4 deep alongside the 18th at St Andrews. Wonderful. And then to sit in the interview area, when Nicholas came in for the last time. And Jack Nicklaus was brought to us, and because we were the host broadcaster, and to sit there, we couldn't go to the interview for about 7 or 8 minutes, so he just sort of sat there alongside me, getting his breath back after the most extraordinary reception and the most extraordinary history that he created at St Andrews down the years and in the Open. I mean, they were moments that I didn't deserve. You feel particularly underqualified to be there, but wow, you do cherish them.
Absolutely. And as I recall, Jack signed off with a birdie. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying on the 18th. What a fitting way for him to bow of the Open. I have to ask you. I mean, no cheering in the press box and all that, but we've all got our favourites. Did you have a particular favourite golfer to interview?
To interview, I mean, they were all approachable. You didn't dread any, really. They were different challenges in their different ways. Seve was amazing, smoldering, and so charismatic. I would put him, and I was lucky enough to work in a whole range of sports. I would put him alongside Ayrton Senna in that same way of, a compulsive communicator, not necessarily with words, but just with expression and attitude and so on. There are others that you could sit down and talk to for hours. Greg Norman, I always got on very well. Nick Price was a great talker and and a very good companion as well. Uh, Monty and Nick Faldo were both so sort of much maligned because they'd have that moment where they'd storm off the 18th green and give an impression of being communicative and aloof and so on. Every time Monty would come back half an hour later and say, "Oh, I've calmed down now. What do you want to do?" and nobody ever saw that.
Yeah.
But I would say Sebi for sure
Yeah.
would be, and I was lucky enough to play with Sebi at Wentworth as well, which was
Oh, wow. Go on, tell us, what was that like? That must
it
have been
was
so special.
well, it was we were it was in the PGA Pro-Am. No, I think World Match Play Pro-Am, and it was at a time where Sebi was having his struggles towards the end of his career, and there was a feeling that he was up against in front of the European Tour Council that afternoon and was about to be suspended from the tour. So we got drawn to play with him in the Pro-Am. And we thought, this is going to be a tough experience. I mean, he shouldn't be out there really, but and I played in a number of pro-ams with a number of players. I've never known any player to be so engaged in what we were doing. He wasn't playing particularly well. He wasn't contributing in the Stableford terms or anything like that to any great degree. But he was, I mean, it was like the final round of the Open. We need the points. We need the points. What are you going to do here? What club are you going to? No, take this one, take that one. And as a result, we all started playing out of our skins and with Sebi virtually caddying. And I've never known any pro-am where the pro has actually been involved in giving the impression that he cares about what's happening. But Sevi just came away and you thought, my goodness, you are something special. Wonderful.
The ultimate competitor by the sounds of it. I mean, even wanting to win pro-ams at all costs.
Exactly. And, you never really got that impression. But, when you were able to see it firsthand and, we need this for a point. We need this for, yeah, I do. But cherish that. That's
What a man! What a man!
yeah.
So many incredible memories, Steve. I'm sure we could do several more podcasts.
Oh, love to. Yeah.
Tell me, do you miss it at all? Are you quite content with the memories that you've got?
I look back and I think I'm so lucky. And we had a fairly defined period at Augusta where we were able to pack in so many great moments and so many great European memories. I remember when Sandy won, we took him up to the balcony ahead of the green jacket ceremony. Dave Musgrove, the caddy, was up on the balcony, and we just sort of whistled him up. And Sandy came up, and we did an interview, and then he went down to do the green jacket ceremony. And it's only ever a 1-year contract at Augusta. And Jim Armstrong, who was the boss there, came up the stairs and he said, "I just want to point out that what you did was a serious breach of our protocol here." And we all thought, "Oh my God, we've just got a British winner. We've blown the contract. We're not going to get the contract," because they analysed it and said, "Yeah, a serious breach of protocol." And he turned and sort of halfway down the stairs, and then he came back up again and he said, "But I do appreciate for your British audience, this is a very rare event and probably won't happen again for a long time. So forget it." And of course, next year Faldo won, then Wooster won, then Ollie came in, and Langer, and they were great times. Great times.
Fantastic. So many incredible memories. Steve, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you and to hear some of your stories. More to the point, delighted to hear that you're keeping well, and really appreciate you doing what you're doing for prostate cancer.
So, yeah, and we appreciate your involvement as well. And the more we can get the message out there, especially around golf clubs, then we'll all be fitter and enjoying our golf a lot more and a lot longer, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. And please come back again soon.
Will do. Anytime.
Yeah, huge thanks to Steve. What a great man. Those stories, absolutely incredible. The idea that on your very first Masters as a broadcaster, the satellite goes down and you basically just have to go, thanks for watching. We'll find out who won tomorrow. That is just, wow, incredible how times have changed. Anyway, yes, thank you, Steve. And thank you to the team at Prostate Cancer UK for putting us in touch. For more information on prostate cancer, their work, how to get tested. I'll say that again. How to get tested. As well as that, the big golf race, go to prostatecanceruk.org. Right, gentlemen, time is marching away from us.
Yes.
So it is time now for Podder of...
Are you sure you want to do this?
I'm really not.
No.
MC McEwen.
I am putting... well, we now know where the MC in McEwen comes from,
Yeah.
which we'll get to in a second.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, last week it was the Charles Schwab Challenge. James, you picked Davis Riley, who missed the cut. I picked Mav McNeely.
What did he do?
Oh, guess what he did? He missed the fucking cut, didn't he?
But even more.
Oh, it's just unbelievable. It's like, you know what? Mav's got a lot of things going for him. Phenomenal golfer. Doesn't even need to be that good at golf because he's going to inherit literally billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Flies his own plane. All I was asking was just make the fucking cut.
Yeah. 2 decent rounds.
2 decent rounds, Mav.
Nope.
No.
Not today.
On
Not
a
this
list
week.
of my favourite Mavericks, number 1 is clearly Maverick from Top Gun.
Yeah.
That'll never change.
No.
But Mav McNeely is gone. Oh, he's just gone right to the ball.
You can't know that many Mavericks, do you?
Do you bet?
Right, okay. Yeah, go on.
Don't have time.
No, right, yeah, etc.
Lewis, you had right of way, as it were. You had the honour, so you picked Harris English,
Yep.
He barely made the cut.
Yeah.
who finished in a tie for 53rd. This is 2
Struggles.
weeks in a row that
Mhm.
we have
Bullshit. That's what it is, Michael.
2 players have missed cuts, and the points have been won with a player finishing outside the top 40.
Yeah.
This is not good enough, gentlemen.
No, it's not.
Anyway, it has had a bit of a material impact at the top of the leaderboard. Remember, first to 15 wins. Lewis, you've now opened up a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, a
You are
little
on
bit.
10 points.
Yep.
James, you're on 7. And I'm, who gives a shit? I'm on 2, right?
Yeah.
It's fine. Let's
It's
get over
not
it.
going to happen.
So, you know what? I'm now determined to make it happen. Just
Right,
for that.
okay.
Michael's fighting relegation.
Yeah, that's cut adrift is what they say about that, isn't
I am
it?
the Ross County.
Yeah.
of the
Here we
Pod
go.
of the
Right, let's
Happy
talk
with
about
that?
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
happy with that.
Inverness
Now we're
Cali fan
talking.
delighted with that.
Superb. Yeah, brilliant.
So, before we lose both our listeners in Dingwall, this week it is the Memorial Tournament, and the pick order is Lewis first, James second, and yours truly third.
Yep.
Lewis, hit us. Who have you got?
I'm going with Sepp Straka.
Oh, what a shout that
Don't
is, by the
believe
way.
I've picked him yet.
What a
So
great shout.
I'm going with him. Really, really good ball striker. I think he's only man who's ranked better than him in approaches to the green this year is Scotty Scheffler. So
Really?
yeah, for that, pretty much that reason alone, I'm taking Sepp. This course should suit him. It's a difficult course, as we know, Jack's Place.
Mhm. Oh,
So-
what? Take a shot. Text. Go.
Everyone for the bucket. So
It's a great
yeah.
shout. He's, I think, one of only 3 players to have won multiple times in the PGA Tour so far this year.
Yeah.
Rory and Ben Griffin being the others.
Yes,
I
God,
apologise if I forget anyone else.
No, I think you're right with that.
Mhm.
So yeah, taking him. Like I said, hard golf course, and he's a brilliant iron player. He's going to have a lot of them this week. So hopefully a good finish.
Okay. James?
Mr. Scotty Scheffler.
I was going to say you've already picked him, but you
I've
won with him, so
won.
you can have him again.
Let's go through the
Yeah.
rules and regulations.
No, I
Is that
haven't
allowed?
picked Scotty yet.
Yeah, you did. You picked him for the PGA.
Yeah.
And he won it. You got 3 points for that.
Oh, yeah, so I did. Forgot about that. But yes.
It wasn't that long ago. It was 2 weeks ago.
Memory's pretty good, lads. No, I'm picking him again. Scotty Scheffler.
Did I
Right.
ask why, or is it pretty obvious because he's the best player in the world?
He's the best player in the world,
Yeah.
and he won there last year as well. So
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that it matters, but I'm...
who's going to miss the cut this
Yeah.
week?
You know what?
Go on.
He has a lot to prove. And he owes Jack a favour. He has to return the favour.
Right.
So I'm going for Jordan Spieth.
Oh my God, really? After all that?
After all that,
Start
now,
the podcast.
as I say, I don't think he should be in the field, but it doesn't change the fact that he is, and form can turn around. I think he will.
There is a cut in this event, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think
there
it's like top, there's 70 players in it, and top 50 in ties make the cut, I believe,
yeah. So
off the top of my head.
Yes.
listen, he owes Jack a solid, and for no other reason
Right,
than
yeah,
that, I'm
okay,
picking
right.
Jordan Spieth. Guys, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's a 2-horse race right now.
Just
I have
picking him
2
for a laugh.
points.
Yeah.
I have 2 total points.
Yeah.
Even if
1,
Spieth
2.
somehow pulls a win from out his backside, I'm only then on 5 points.
Yeah.
Still
Well,
2
look,
adrift of my nearest challenger.
Never know.
I am the Ken Wayne of the Positive Merit.
Do you know what's going to be funny though? You've picked him, and I bet you Brant Snedeker's going to make
Yeah.
the cut.
Ricky Fowler. The
Yeah,
other 3
Ricky
sponsors
Fowler.
exemptions will be up
Oh,
there.
Jordan
God.
Spieth's the only one.
Yeah, Matt Kuchar wins it. Yeah, why not? Sod it. Jordan Spieth. So Jordan Spieth for me,
Okay.
Scotty Scheffler for James, and Lewis is going with Sepp Straka. The Memorial Tournament also taking place this week. The US Women's Open. We'll be talking about that more on next week's episode, but we'll be having a bit of a debrief on it.
Yep.
So, yeah, look forward to that. Let's finish up with Bear Lies, gents.
Oh.
And it's my
Oh.
turn this week.
Right, go
Mr.
on.
McEwen.
Sit back.
So,
What have you
I
got for
once
us
played
this
golf with Donald Trump. That's not the... You know that's true.
Yeah.
But when I played golf with Donald Trump, I had a former Scottish tour pro, as in a European tour pro, caddying for me.
Ah. Right, so we
Okay.
know that you've played with
Yeah.
Played
Donald
9
Trump.
holes with Donald Trump
Yeah,
in
so
2014. So
Yeah.
before he was
Yeah.
even remotely involved in politics. I say
Mhm.
remotely. He
Okay.
wasn't. It hadn't been confirmed that he was running
So-
for president.
Yeah.
So at dinner the night before, that had come up in conversation. Are you going
Really?
to run for president? And he just sort of batted it off.
Interesting.
in the way that he does.
What was that round of golf like? Just out of curiosity, with him. Did you get
Yeah,
much chat
it's-
out of him?
Yeah, loads actually.
Really?
A lot of people have asked me that, what was he like to play with? And I think people are kind of either hoping or expecting that I'm going to say he was just an absolute loon ball, like just a lunatic. I can't say that. The truth is he was actually really good company. He was very interested in bunkered, very interested in golf in Scotland. He asked as many questions as I asked him.
Really?
That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
he was genuinely good company.
Mhm.
Like when you talk about company on the golf course, I've played with some guys that are phenomenally great company. I've played with some guys that are terrible company. Donald Trump, very much in the former. He was great company. So
Wow.
Amazing.
enjoyed it.
And where was this round? This was
Well, at Trump International Golf Links
Yeah.
up in Aberdeen.
Nice.
excellent.
So
Yeah,
there's the
go on.
question.
Yeah, there's the
So,
formalities.
okay.
Who was your
Who is
caddy
it?
then? Who
What was his name?
Graham Gordon.
Right. Was he a good caddy?
He was very good caddy, actually.
Uh-huh.
Exceptionally good caddy. So Graham, I think I'm right in saying former Scottish amateur champion. I remember when I joined Bunkered, I went to the Scottish Open at Loch Lomond around about 2004, 2005.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing him signing autographs for kids at that point.
Mhm.
Back then, he was pretty much one of the country's brightest hopes
Yeah.
to go on and make it in the game.
Mhm.
Right.
It just never worked out for him for
Uh-huh.
a number of reasons. But yeah, he's from the Northeast, I think.
Okay.
And we were walking, so we played the back nine. We're walking up the 10th. He's got my bag. He'd introduced himself to me as Graham.
Mhm.
And I'm actually now blanking because I always get his name wrong. It's either Graham Gordon or Gordon Graham. So bear with me.
Yeah,
It's not
okay.
Graham
That's-
Gordon.
yeah,
Graham
it's a
Gordon,
bit-
yes.
Yeah,
Graham
You're right
Gordon.
the first time.
Graham Gordon. He played Walker Cup as well. So
Oh.
yeah, he introduced himself to me on the tee as Graham, and I thought, what?
You reckon?
I recognise you, but there's
Mm.
no chance you're caddying for me.
Yeah.
Like you should be playing golf somewhere. Never mind picking someone's bag.
Mhm.
And we were getting close to the green on the 10th, and I was like, Graham Gordon?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's me. Aye.
Wow. Well done for remembering.
Mm.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. You didn't even need to go on your laptop to get his full name correct.
Yeah.
Um,
So how did he start caddying there then? What's the story
Genuinely
behind that?
can't remember, but he's
Right.
been on tour for a couple of years. He tried to make it. Listen, it's a well-trodden path, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Some
Yeah.
guys make it, but most guys don't.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out for Graham in the end. So
Right.
he had to find something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember for the life of me if he was just caddying, for a season or for a few months or just to make ends meet at that time. But no, he was certainly caddying there at that time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What are you thinking, James?
Other questions?
It's very plausible.
It is
Just
very
thinking.
plausible, but I'm also wondering, is like, did Michael see? I feel like I've seen the picture of this, and I'm like, did Michael not take like a motor caddy or something like that, like an electric trolley?
Oh God, yeah. See,
So this is where, like, I don't, like, Donald Trump would have probably been in a buggy with a caddy,
I don't know, maybe.
but then I'm not sure.
Do you like having caddies, Michael?
Yeah,
'Cause it's quite a lot of people
Don't mind
love
it.
it. A lot of people hate it.
I don't mind
yeah.
it.
Okay.
But you've got to have the right caddy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind someone saying you're going to have a caddy today.
Uh-huh.
If it's like a pro-am or a media day or something like that. I've never had an issue with that, but I've had some really bad caddies.
Really?
Yeah.
Any?
I've had some great ones as well,
Yeah.
but I've had some bad ones, and
Mm-hmm.
it can just bring your day down a little bit, can't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Was there any particular moments you remember where he might have like saved you a shot? He's told you to hit a different club, or like given you a really good line, anything like that?
No one was keeping score.
Right.
So it wasn't like...
Not even Donald?
Oh, no, he was like... So we played 9 holes, he was
18
18
holes
under, so...
Right,
quite
okay.
obviously. Yeah, look, I don't remember us keeping score. I'll be totally upfront. My hole-by-hole memories are pretty hazy. I do
Right.
remember certain parts, like going up 14.
Uh-huh.
I remember that pretty vividly. I remember coming down 16, 17 pretty vividly. 18, which I feel like I should remember because it's such a batshit hole with like 18 bunkers on. It's just so tough. I don't remember that really at all.
Right.
So you're asking me, do I remember any point when Graham contributed? Answer is no.
No.
I can't remember that. But I do remember it just being a fun, chilled out
Right.
experience.
It's quite vague, though.
Yeah. Did you give him a tip, or did you Matt Kuchar him?
That's a good question, actually. I would like to think I gave him a tip.
Yeah.
But if I didn't, Graham, get in touch and I will, what is it they do? I'll PayPal you 40 quid.
Right.
Cash out.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm believing this, but he's not giving us much details.
No.
But is that because it was just so long ago, or is he just trying to fob us off here?
I don't know. I'm pretty
take us
vague
off
with
the-
mine as well sometimes, just to be fair, and mine
You
have
were
all been
very
true.
spot on with your lie last week.
Yeah,
so that's
yeah, yeah.
making me think this is true.
Um,
I'm going to go true because I know that you played with Trump and it was all those details seem to be correct. So there's no reason to think. You're right. Like it's quite a well-trodden path in that, tour pro or someone who's tried to make it on tour and it's not quite worked out. So he's gone and started caddying local club. But he's smirking at me now that I'm saying that.
who were your other playing partners?
There was only one other guy that played with us, and that was the then editor of Golf World, a guy called Nick Wright. Brilliant guy, Nick. He had a caddy as well. I just don't remember who that was.
How come there were only 3 of you, not a 4-ball?
It's Donald Trump. It's his golf course. He makes the rules.
Just wondering.
I remember him, actually, I do remember him going absolutely mental at, I say mental, for what it's worth, I agree with him, but he was really angry when guy driving the beverage cart arrived and he was waiting behind the 13th green for us. Excuse me. And this beverage cart, Trump goes, all right, I'll take I think he was looking for a Diet Coke.
That's what he drinks, isn't it?
I
That's
think
his
so.
thing. Yeah.
And couldn't find it on one side of it where it was absolutely stocked full. Goes around the other side, the beverage cart, empty.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this cart half full?
Yeah.
Now, I can understand the guy's logic because there weren't many of us on the golf course that day. It wasn't exactly the best weather and the course was still fairly new. And yeah, it was just one of those days when they didn't have a full tee sheet.
Yeah.
Trump was not having it anyway. It's like, take that cart back to the clubhouse, fill it up, make sure there's something of everything,
Oh dear.
and then come back out. But do not come back onto my golf course driving a half full cart ever again.
Wow. Oh,
I just thought, you know what?
Fair play.
As much as I'm just wanting the ground to open up and swallow me at this point, 'cause it's so awkward, totally agree. Like, the guy drives standards. He wants nothing but the absolute best. He drives those standards, maybe not in the nicest possible way, but I get it.
Yeah.
I get where he was coming from.
Did he get his Diet Coke in the end?
Oh yeah, of course he did.
Oh, Lewis.
Yeah, I think this is true. I'm going with true. All the details are stacking up, and there's no reason to believe that you wouldn't have
A European Tour pro
Yeah.
caddying for me when I'm playing golf with Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, playing golf with Donald Trump is a sort of unbelievable.
But
But
when
I
you
know
say
that's
when you say it out loud like that, it's such a lie.
I don't think it is. I'm going true.
I think it's a lie.
Right. Okay. Go on.
So you're saying true, Lewis?
Yeah.
I think it's a lie.
James thinks it's a lie. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Genuinely, yeah.
That's really cool.
Graham
That's
Gordon,
awesome.
lovely bloke. As I say, it took me a minute or two to clock who he was, and then we're walking up the fairway. Well, walking next to the fairway, walking up the rough looking for my ball. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm sure it is, but I don't want to be an idiot. I don't want to be stupid and
Yeah.
say, are you Graham Gordon? He's like, no, I'm Graham Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you think I'm Graham? But no, yeah, really, really good guy, Graham. It's funny because he genuinely, I remember him from when I started at Bunkered 20 odd years ago. He had all of the skills. People listening to this that follow Scottish golf, I guess, and know it closely, they'll remember Graham as an exceptional talent. It's just funny, isn't it? How sometimes things go your way and other times they don't.
Small margins, isn't it? When you get to that level, and the thing is, from going off on a tangent here, but all around like the world, every country will have a player like that at the same time. And if you don't, not that you're less talented, maybe just things don't quite fall for you.
Bit of luck.
And then,
Yeah.
a bit of
A
luck
sponsor's
along the way.
invite.
Well, yeah, those help. Yeah, good sponsors do help. So
Yeah.
a bit of money and a bit of pots dropping when you need them to. It's tough.
So I don't know what he's
Couple
doing now.
grand.
I hope he's still involved in golf. I haven't spoken to him since then.
Yeah.
James, you've given me the fear because I'm not sure if I did tip him now. I'm pretty good at stuff like that. But from memory, we walked off the golf course and were basically ushered straight into the clubhouse. Trump was talking to a few people, then came over, chatted to us again for a bit, and then off he went. I'm not sure if I saw Graham after we walked off the 18th.
Right.
I now feel really bad. I feel like I need to just find Graham Gordon and give him 40 quid.
Yeah, get in touch. That's
We're
the latest.
inviting all sorts of
That's-
Graham Gordons to get in
Yeah,
touch.
I don't know. It's like the latest payment a caddy's ever had.
Fake accounts coming in and everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, my heart has slightly sunk thinking about that.
To be fair, if he was
I'm over it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
no, it's fine. Yeah,
Sorry,
keep going.
Graham.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was me.
Cool. Oh, that's a good one.
So yes.
The Matt Kuchar of Bunker.
Where's my sponsors?
Here, you're not getting one now after all that.
Brilliant.
Anyway, gentlemen, look, thank you very much for your time this week. As always, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
chat.
Cheers.
Thank you to, well, first of all, Prostate Cancer UK and Steve Ryder for their time earlier. Steve, many thanks indeed. Great to hear that you are keeping so well and great to see you looking so well. So thank you for that. Prostate Cancer UK, keep up the great work. Honestly, what you guys are doing is so important. So yeah, keep on going. Callaway, thank you for your continued support. But most of all, thank you to you for listening and watching if you are. Remember, facebook.com/The Bunkered Podcast. Get involved, give us a follow. It's a good place to win stuff, if nothing else. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's bye-bye for now.